class, even ours is a name. I'm staking my claim. Street smart edge with a touch of heart. Luso grits the show where the hustle sparks. Luso grit, fight through the fire. Dreams don't sleep when you're climbing higher. Portuguese roots with the world in sight. In the great hustle, we shining bright.
Zed Manel,
Hello.
I'm I'm so happy to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm good, and you? Thanks
I'm
for the
very
invite.
good. When I connected with you so we can arrange this, I was extremely happy because you marked such a pivotal era of my life. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, man.
Thank you so much. I'm glad for it. And I hope we can keep on doing it with our music. We're still
Oh,
doing music, so
for sure,
hopefully
man.
music has
As
that power of being everlasting, I
oh
hope.
yeah,
And yes, it shapes us as human beings. And I guess that music is the perfect diary for our times and our most special moments. So I'm very glad to have the opportunity to mark people's lives that way. Because I also had those heroes and those people that for me uh, are so important. You know, generally I say that the day that, I don't know, Jewel or Christina Aguilera die, I'm going to cry like it's a member of my family because I will just remember how many moments, you know,
yeah,
I grew up to those ladies. I cried to those ladies. I formed myself as a human being to those songs, and that's really the power of music. That's why the you know the art in itself needs to be more important than the artist because that's what they do that makes them so special, and they're just a consequence. What matters is the message, never the messenger. That's my policy.
yeah. That's nice keeping it humble. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Like I was saying, I feel so privileged because I lived in Portugal at the time when you guys came out, and like I was a part of it. And it was a time when I was working in sales already, so I was in the car all day and I was listening to music. It was a big part of my life. I was in my early 20s, so it's I believe like especially in our teens, early 20s is when the most impactful stuff happened in our life, and you were a part of it. So I'm truly grateful for it and nostalgic about it. But there is a big diaspora here in North America that sometimes they don't have the same connection. Like they don't have the same know Portugal as it is. Like the Portugal they know is that of their grandparents or their parents because they've never been or they went once when they were kids and they weren't a part of you guys' era. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to, build this community to build these bridges, connect the diaspora with Portugal and vice versa. So, I want to help you guys reach this diaspora over here if I can.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So
Thank you so much.
So, as an introduction, maybe for these people over here that weren't a part of it and don't know you well, where were you born? Where did you end up growing up?
Well, I born in Lisbon in '88, and then around my 6 years old, my mother moved to Viseu. And well, I actually won a first contest in the national radio RFM
Oh yeah,
when I was 10, singing Alanis Morissette. And from that moment on, it was very fast because I was 12 when I met the bass player of Fingertips of my band. And I met him in the most strange way because my mother, she's an economist, and so she had an office and she had an employee that was a huge fan,
yeah,
a huge friend of Rui. And actually, I was a fan of his earlier band. So I asked her to meet them as a fan
for
of
sure.
their band. They were called I. And so, well, she introduced me. I was very thrilled about it. And they ended up listening to me singing and found it cute that such a young boy liked to sing and invited me to sing with them on a concert. And then I found out that, well, the band was about to end because
Yeah,
they ended up choosing to split and part their ways. And then, well, we listened to me sing and invited me to the studio. And 2 days later, his brother, our manager till today, showed up in my mother's office and just told her, "Your son is really talented. We would like to invest on the recording of a record with him because we truly believe his talent." And well, my father got really scared because I was too young and I could change my mind and my voice could change. But luckily, my mother, she knew from a very early age that that was what moved me, what thrilled me. And so it was a no-brainer for her. She felt she had to give me that opportunity, and to have those people that were already doing it professionally believing in me was kind of a sign. And so she did. And well, my first record came out when I was 14 in the 1st of April of 2003. And our first single ended up 9 months straight away in the number one
I remember.
top airplay in the radio, Melancholic Ballad. And well, another song of that record, Picture of My Own, ended up being the soundtrack of the biggest commercial ever made in Portugal for a beer. It was the advertisement for a new beer,
Yeah.
and it was very big because in the time the four national channels stopped at 10 p.m. to show and premiere the advertisement, and the advertisement had almost 3 minutes, so it was almost the whole song. We got a video clip done, a beautiful
Wow.
video clip. And it was amazing. And then that song ended up featuring on a teenage soap opera that was a huge success here in Morangos com Açúcar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was the song of the main characters, the main
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh,
so, well, from that moment on, it just kept going. And then we released our second record in 2006. We had from that record also a number one, "'Cause to Love You." And other two singles. And we did the warm up of Queen, George Michael, Nelly Furtado, The Course. We played in festivals like Vilar de Mouros, Rock in Rio, in Romania with Ricky Martin and Simple Minds. And then in 2009, we released our last EP together to that time that had also another number one, Do It. But then, well, I was a teenager while I lived all that, and it was my father representing me. And well, it's kind of that typical bizarre story. My father represented me and he convinced me that my manager robbed me, and I was quite unhappy because of the pressure and the success. I wanted to be
but it
a
happens.
teenager.
It happens so often, though, right? Sometimes the managers do
I
take
I I,
advantage.
I wanted to do my own songs, to do my songwriting, and I'm not much of um as it might look like. It's sometimes very unfair because I introduced myself to the world as a pop artist, as a mainstream artist, but the songs I listen to are way more indie and underground. And so I just wanted to do my shit. And I was kind of pissed off at all the success, at all the exposure, because I felt very invaded. I found out last year with 36 that I'm autistic and I have ADHD, so I'm a very oversensitive person. And all of that was kind of very overwhelming. So I just thought, is this the reasons I really had to want to make music? And no, they weren't. So I wanted to reconnect with my artistry, with my creative side. And so I decided to go solo. I left the band and we kind of parted ways on a very, you know, rough way because we sued each other, and
Yeah.
then the
Well,
court decided that I couldn't sing
the songs.
their instrumentals, but they couldn't sing my lyrics because the lyrics were mine, the instrumentals were theirs. And so the crowd was deprived of our whole
Yeah.
discography for 10 years since I left in 2009. So I had a solo career where I released two records in English as Darko, where I started to also try to do some songs in Portuguese. And it ended up happening that my biggest solo success was a Portuguese song that I
Yeah.
didn't want to include on the record because I thought it was cheesy. In the time I offered her the song to Marisa Liz
Yeah.
from Amor Eletro because I love her voice
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm a friend and a fan of hers.
For sure.
But when she listened to me sing the song in the piano, she kind of
This is
got
yours.
emotional and told me, like, this is
Yours.
your song.
Yeah.
You can't let anyone else sing it. It's your song. And I felt very embarrassed at the time to sing in Portuguese. I felt very exposed. And so, actually, I released three other records with my own name, Zé Manel, completely in Portuguese, where I collaborate. I collaborated a lot in my solo
But let me
project.
but
What?
but let me tell you something though. In your case, I read some of your posts that you put out and your music's the lyrics. It's like your vocabulary, like your Portuguese. You could tell you're a profound thinker.
Yes, I am.
So you could tell you're a profound thinker. Your
I'm a very
vocabulary is very
overwhelmed
extensive.
philosopher.
But how did, as such a young age, how did you get inspired to do it in English?
Because it was easier to me. First, because all the songs that I used to listen to were mostly in English, my favorite artists. And it was funny because you were saying that I kind of marked an era of your life.
Yeah.
And it's the same with me. I think it's kind of frustrating because as an artist, I think that it comes to a time in our lives that we start stop searching for new artists. We just keep on listening the ones we already like, the ones we found in our teenage years,
Yeah.
over and over
I do
again.
that all
So
the
I
time.
still keep
I don't
waiting
even know
for.
the new bands.
Yes, I still keep on waiting for Fiona Apple's new record and PJ Harvey's new record. And well, unfortunately, I can't listen to Jeff Buckley anymore. But, I still wait for those. And I'm not very good at finding new music, also because I hate technology. So I'm not a very good Spotify user or
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. I
It's
don't
all right.
Shazam shit. But it's kind of surprising. Some days ago, I just ended up remembering Tori Amos that I love. And
Yeah.
I just searched for her profile on Spotify and I found shit. She has like 5 records I didn't listen and knew
Time
about.
flies,
So
then we get distracted.
kind of got me a little pissed off. But in my solo project, I collaborated with a lot of Portuguese artists that inspired me a lot, like Tose Brito, José Cid, Surma, Maru. And also, I have a very, very special collaboration with Lee Nash from Sixpence None the Richer. They are one of my all-time favorite bands.
Yeah.
And no, it was very funny because I used to, one of their first records was offered to me by my dad. And so when he died, I kind of was listening to a Lee Nash solo record and I just decided to write her on Instagram and to say, well, this happened in my life and I was listening to your songs and it just reminded me of that first record that was offered to me. And she was so kind and so open, so easier to work with than sometimes our Portuguese,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
colleagues. And she was so open to it. She just told me, "What a beautiful story. I lost my father recently too. I'd be glad to work on that song." And so she recorded this Dezembro with me because it's from a solo record that each song has the name of a month. It was a love story told through the months of the year. And so it was very, very gratifying and very challenging also to have a solo career. But then again, there I learned the other side of the coin, because I didn't have a structure. I wasn't doing music as simple and as catchy and as directed to the public. And so I kind of earned respect of the critics in one way,
Yeah.
but I kind of lost a lot of, exposure and that Portugal is a very small country. The
Sure. Yeah,
market is
yeah.
very, very small.
And
So
it happens so many times. Like there used to be I don't know if you remember them, Savage Garden.
of course
So when
we have a cover of Savage Garden in M80, Truly
yeah.
Madly Deeply. If you search for it, Fingertips covered it.
So I was a huge fan when they came out at the time. I have their 2 CDs. But then they split, right? And then Darren Hayes tried to go on his own. His first album, he had an amazing song. That Insatiable is amazing. But
Yeah.
then, like, he never made it, in like a solo. And he was the face of the band. He was the
I
voice.
remember
But he never
daily
really made it.
this thing. You can be a hostage of success forever. If people were introduced to you one way, that's how they see you. That's the box they put you in. And so in Portugal, I feel a lot of prejudice in this aspect. I'm too commercial for the intellectuals and too intellectual for the commercials. So I'm in
You're
a
the
very
top.
dangerous middle line, but that's who I am. And with my band, yes, we like to do pop songs, songs that people can sing along and that go straight to the heart. But yes, the lyrics are simpler. The sentences repeat more because there's a formula
Yeah, yeah.
to get on the radio and
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
to those
yeah. I
people. In
understand.
my solo work, I almost paid to work. It wasn't a profitable
I
project,
understand.
but it was a thing I wanted to do. I think it's my mission to do it. It's the songs I felt the need to do, the songs I would like to buy, and the messages I really wanted to convey to the crowd. So it's not that I like one project more than the other, but both of them are two parts of me that I equally need, and both taught me very different things. So I get in one the things I can get in the other.
For sure.
And if I can manage to help them coexist, I still write my songs daily that I have kept and that I know that I'm gonna release someday when it's appropriate. The difference is the expectation I have from them because the thing is I left Fingertips in a very high success rate
Yeah, yeah.
and I couldn't expect to have the same commercial success if I didn't have the same commercial thinking when I was doing my solo project. I
Yeah.
did very personal things.
Yeah.
I did I did love letters to people I really loved, and they were more directed to one person than to the whole crowd.
Yeah.
And yes, it brought me respect, but it also brought me a lot of respect for my team and my bandmates and the structure around it, because it works, because all that people work with the same goal. In my project, I paid to materialize my vision. And so, since I'm not the most typical person, not neurotypical at all, it's natural that the masses don't love me as much because, well, it's for a smaller group of understanding, I guess. And it frustrates me to say this because I don't feel my work is indie at all. I think it's quite digestible and simple. But when people listen to it and compare it to fingertips, no, it's not. The lyrics are way more complicated and the chorus are not equal. And well, I'm a musician. Sorry, I feel the need of a little more thrill musically to satisfy me. I'm
Yeah.
not the regular listener. I'm a musician, but I understand it. And so both projects give me two very different things and two very special things. One gives me the pleasure of materializing who I am and my soul, and the other gives me the crowd's attention and a weight to my words. So I wouldn't be able to do my solo project if I wasn't the vocalist of Fingertips, because, well, then nobody would listen at all,
Yeah, I understand.
probably. So I need both. I need one for personal satisfaction and the other to get to the people to listen to my private messages. So then I got back to Fingertips in 2018 to celebrate our 15th birthday. And when we got back to playing those songs again, 10 years passed. And our surprise was immense because people were craving for them like crazy. People wanted to listen to that like crazy, like it haven't passed a day.
Let,
And so we kind of looked at each other and thought, fuck, this is what we built, and what we built is big. It's all this connection between people, it's all these memories. We would be very ungrateful if we didn't keep doing it,
yeah.
or if we didn't keep playing it. We're being selfish assholes. And so, well, what was supposed to be
Let me.
a tiny reunion made us got back together. We released a new EP of originals in 2022, Dear Gene. That is quite of a great metaphor between my solo work and the Fingertips. The Dark Phoenix. The Phoenix is my favorite Marvel character ever.
Okay.
And so it's like my solo work is me on Jean Grey mood, very insecure of of my powers, very in doubt, very fragile in a way, very exposed to my sensitivity, very well naked
Yeah.
in a way, I must say. And then Fingertips is when I become the Phoenix, and it's when I kind of have my full power to step up and to spread my message in a wider range and with a bigger strength implicit. And so it was very good because that made us risk to do a Coliseum of Porto with 1 month
Mhm.
of antecedents,
Yeah.
and it practically sold out. And that was the moment we just thought, fuck, we can just turn our backs on these 22 years or 23 years of music.
Let me.
So now we're basically recording a new record
Yeah.
that is coming out on October. And we're doing Super Bocarena, that it's the second biggest room in Portugal, in November, in the 6th of November. And that's it. We released a new single like 2 months ago or 3 months ago called I Can Still Love.
I
And
saw
yeah,
that.
that's it.
Beautiful.
This is the
Let,
love I can still love after all these years. It's music. It's the only thing I don't give up in.
on the subject of love, and you just mentioned that like people were craving for something like you guys back. And I feel that like in the 90s, early 2000s, music had so much love in it. There were lots of ballads. There was love in all the music.
Music was everlasting back then, and
But
we had a
nowadays,
thing.
with all this, not to say like there's good music and everything, but with like fun, like a lot of like this funk, even certain
And we sound like old grumpies talking. I have that thought a lot.
no,
Like,
but like there's no,
will my niece
there's not
say
much
this in
meaning
some
to it,
years?
you know.
Because every generation I know, they defend that the songs they listened to when they were teenagers are the best in the world.
But undeniably, that's right. But undeniably, there isn't much love in the music in this day and age. You think it has to do with how everyone has
And
been
is there
very
much love in the world these
self-centered?
days?
Yes, that's what I'm getting to. Like because everyone's more self-centered and the world is more secularized, and You think it has to do with
We're
that?
isolated. We're angry about the human race.
Yeah.
That's the goal, to lower our
Yeah.
frequency and to make us apart
I agree
and
with
to
that.
make us disbelieved in community.
I
And to
agree with
make,
that.
if you think about back then, like pop projects like the Spice Girls,
Yeah.
the messages were uplifting
Yeah, yeah.
and educative in a way. It could
Yeah.
be funny and cheesy, but it was always educative and uplifting. Now, even what's supposed to be good, it's empty worded. It's dark. It's vague. It's shallow. It's it has that aura. And come on, give me Alanis Morissette. I'll give you
Yeah.
back Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, me
It-
too.
it- but then again, I think, am I getting old and grumpy? Because every generation stands for the same and defends the same. One thing I believe, we were one of the last generations that had this privilege of not living from the internet when we had the biggest success.
Yeah.
It was the start of Wi-Fi and
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
and so on. So back then, you had time to fall in love with a band and to follow a band and to buy the records. Like I bought
I bought
PJ
lots.
Harvey's records, Fiona Apple's records. Nowadays, you like a song, you Shazam it, you put it on a list that you probably don't open anymore, and you don't get the time to fall in love with an artist, to follow him truly. So sometimes I wonder, will the successes of today be a success in 10 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably in 10 years, you don't remember it. So I wonder, will we have another I Will Always Love You, another My Heart Will Go On,
Yeah.
another Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yeah.
another Whitney Houston, another Freddie? Because, yeah, there's so many things coming out every day. It's good by one aspect. It democratized the chance to everyone to show their talent. But it kind of fucked up the standards
Oh, yeah.
about quality. Everyone can do a song and put it on YouTube, and everyone can pay for views. And so I remember my favorite artists. I used to buy Bleats, the music magazine, and I would see the reviews on the albums, and that's how I found some of my favorite artists. Nowadays, we don't have opinion makers anymore. We have influencers, which means every dickhead can give an opinion
What do
and
you
be listened to.
what do you have to
That
say
makes
about
us lack
AI?
trust on everything. We don't trust anything anymore because back then you would go to the doctor, you had a problem, and the doctor would say, "You take this pill," and you would believe it, take it, and everything was fine. Nowadays, you don't even trust the doctor because
So
you
true.
open your browser and
It's so
all
true.
kinds of idiots are saying opinions about
Yeah.
all kinds of subjects,
It's so
and then
true. Everyone's a
suddenly
specialist.
you don't know what to trust anymore. You don't trust the government. You don't trust religion. You don't trust that love is forever. You don't trust that good overcomes evil. You don't trust that if you work hard, you're going to be rewarded. We don't trust any of that anymore. And maybe that's the goal of the people that control us all. It's like to keep us divided, to keep us afraid, to keep us in doubt of our power, to keep us separated and always hyper vigilant. And so I guess I believe that in my time, in my generation, we're gonna see a twist because we're understanding this is all like the name of our first record. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's all an illusion. And we're waking up to the illusion. We're waking up to the fact that we want to feel again. We don't want to communicate only through screens.
I know.
We don't want to not know the name of our neighbor. We don't want to, spend our days overwhelmed by the images that we see on the news, forgetting to look to the side when we go on the street. And so I believe we're all waking up in a way. And if we're smart enough, we're going to use the internet not to divide us, but to get us together and to find our tribe and to thrive.
Like you were saying just earlier about like how any idiot can make music these days, but it's so true. Like you can punch in a prompt, and AI will give you
Come on.
this amazing song. You know?
Well, we say you can, but allow me to say, because this is the only thing I talk about. It's the only thing I'm a professional in.
That's right.
It's
But that's
music.
why I
So
that,
this one I feel entitled to talk
yes, that's
about.
exactly why I want to ask you
Fuck you,
about it.
Suno. You're not enough. I always know it's a
That's
machine.
exactly why I want to have your input
It
on it.
it lacks finesse. It lacks humanity. It lacks mistake. It lacks the breath. It lacks the emotion. It lacks the crack in the voice. It lacks everything
100%.
that makes us human. So machines have a
100%.
long way to go.
But
We were the ones creating them, not the other way
but
around.
even the writing, because the performance, I 100% understand everything you're saying about the crack in the voice, the emotion it brings. but the
Oh,
writing,
but
like,
that's me. I pay
you
enough
needed, like,
attention. Most
you
of the
guys
people
go,
don't care about technical aspects.
you
Either
guys
they
would
like it
go
or
through,
not.
but you guys
So
would,
when you build songs based on
yeah,
statistics, it's a formula.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, people will like it.
yeah,
It's an algorithm studying what they dance to, what word triggers them. So it's made specifically for them. But the problem is we became cheap dopamine
I
chasers.
know,
And we think that living is being constantly in pleasure, in feeding our need for stimulation. And it's not. Sometimes art is about the silence. It's about the doubt. It's about how it crushes you after you listen to it. I became a singer because when I was 7, I asked my mom on my birthday for my second record. And my second record was Pieces of You by Jewel. And I remember, as if it was today, it's still my favorite song to date. When I listened to Foolish Games for the first time, I was a kid. I didn't know English. I just remember that I cried so deeply, and it was not because of sadness. It wasn't sadness. It was just an emotion that I couldn't fit in my body. And I felt that moment, that exact moment. This is what I'm going to do for my whole life, because this is what communicates with me in a way that nothing else can. You know, it's
yeah,
like when you find your home and you feel home. So that's the goal of art. Art needs to crush me. My favorite movie, Dancer in the Dark with Bjork, I watch it and my head gets heavy for the next 24 hours. But that's exactly the idea. I
yeah,
just don't want to laugh, giggle, and tomorrow I forgot about it because it's not everlasting. It didn't challenge me in any way. I didn't
yeah,
grow up. So we need to go back to the point that art as a mission, it's not just to reach numbers and to satisfy people, and even less to make them dumber every day. That's not the goal of art. And so that's also why artists are reconnecting with the reasons that made them do art. Why do I want to do this? What is my true purpose in the world? It's just to fulfill my vanity and be in the charts and show my fancy outfit in events, or it is to teach and to defy and to break some patterns that I think they're wrong. So that for me is what made God give me my talent.
would you
It's
say,
not just to be
would you say,
waving my. Hmm?
would you say in hindsight that either you chose music or did music choose you?
Well, we both chose each other. It was
Yeah,
love
right.
at first sight. I wasn't a very popular kid in school because my mom moved to Viseu when I was 6, so I didn't know anything. Back then, I didn't know I'm autistic and any of my neurodivergencies. So I just felt like a stranger that fell on that smaller town that was a very electric kid. I wanted to talk with everyone. I wanted to make friends. I was very creative, very talkative,
Yeah, you could tell.
and and that was not very well received at the time. I was a stranger, and so I felt very lonely and incomprehended, and so I didn't like to play with dolls with the girls. I didn't like to play football with the men. I used to like to draw and to read lyrics and to write. And so I decided, how can I get this fucker's attention? And so I decided to sing for the first time in the Christmas party of my first year in school. And I did. And that was the first time ever in my life that I felt seen, not looked at, but seen. People, when I ended up, they were like looking at me like, wow, he did this. This is the guy that doesn't stop for a second. He did that. So I felt immensely respected. And with all the respect, but I remember frequently an interview of Tom Ford for JQ, where the interviewer asked him, like, what did you feel when kids bullied you and they didn't get you? And his answer was quite simple. I felt fabulous and like everyone else was stupid. And that's it. That's it. My biggest privilege in life was I found my power very early. My second privilege in life is that I found that my power allows me to find and show others people's power. And so that's the most beautiful thing ever. And that's what I use my music to.
Good stuff and very powerful. You're so impressive. Like when you guys kicked off with the band, the first album, that melancholic ballad took off. But I believe you were extremely young when you wrote that song. How old were you when you wrote
I
it?
wrote that when I was 12.
And
and
how old,
recorded it when I was 12.
and how old were you when you performed it on the record?
12, 13, 13 maybe.
It's so incredible, man. It's
And it came
amazing.
out when I was 14.
So
Well,
incredible.
I'm an old soul living like a teenager. That's the paradox.
So so impressive that you managed to do that. I remember. Do you
No,
remember?
what's impressive is that I managed to survive it.
Yes, yes. And only you know more of what you survived, because us on the outside, we sometimes you think everything's all glamorous, and it's not really like that sometimes.
Sometimes I believe that God made me born in Portugal because he's protecting his dark horse. I would be dead by now if I was an international success superstar. I wouldn't handle it like Amy didn't, like Kurt didn't, like Whitney didn't. I know myself. I'm too sensitive for that. If I was exposed to that level of success with the age that I was exposed to but at a scale this level of success, I wouldn't be here by now, I'm sure. So I think that in a way, this was a smart choice. And I don't regret not having. Well, we had the chance to internationalize ourselves when I was 16. And I said no, exactly because of that. I remember my
Oh,
manager showing me a documentary of Robbie Williams. And he was deeply
yeah,
depressed, fat, and
yeah.
talking about how he didn't see his mom for 6 months and he was sleeping in hotel rooms. And I remember all the band, they were older guys, and this is a business, looking at that, aiming for that success and thinking, wow, what a dream it would be to tour worldwide. And I just remember looking at that destroyed, sad man and say, fuck, I don't want this. I'm not capable of that. Maybe today I would be. Back then, I wouldn't for sure. And even today, it would always be in my rules. One thing I feel very proud of myself, some people like my manager call me dumb, but it's that I'm incorruptible. And so I won't sell my my values and my ground and my needs, my personal needs, especially after I found out of my neurodivergency that made me understand myself a lot more. I wouldn't give up on that for no money in the world, no success in the world, no exposure, no Grammy performance ever.
Mhm.
Maybe I would doubt it for a duet with Christina Aguilera, but even so, I know I would say no. I know.
I was gonna ask you that. Is there any like dream collab that hasn't happened
Yes,
you wish would have
yes.
happened? That's the one.
Christina is my soul animal. I love her. She's the woman I'd be if I were a woman. She would be the mother of my kids. Yeah, I'm totally a Christina fan. I like everything she embodies. She's not fake humbling. She knows what she's worth. But I also believe she's a shy person. Because I am a fake extrovert. And that's the thing. The stage is where I find myself in a place of comfort. It's harder for me to have this conversation with you or to talk to a screen than to sing for hours in front of millions of people. Because that's where I feel like myself. For me, people would only see me singing. That's
Amazing.
my form of being. And so Christina gives me two things that I care a lot about an artist. One is an unmeasurable
Oh
talent,
yeah.
that it's
Those
unquestionable.
vocals.
Her tone is one in a million, which we don't have many
What's the
these
matter?
days, I
Hey,
must
hey, hey,
say.
hey, hey. What's the matter? You don't think Britney Spears is better? Remember? I'm
You don't
joking.
think Meryl Streep and Marilyn Monroe are both actresses,
Hey,
do you?
I'm joking because it was the beef at the time, right? But Christina
You
had
know?
such a voice, like there was no comparison in the voice.
You don't compare Marilyn Monroe and Meryl Streep as actresses. You don't compare Whitney Houston and Madonna as singers. And, well, there's space for both.
Yes.
Both are needed. We need art and culture as we need entertainment. Let's just not confuse it.
Yeah.
That's my point. Let's just not mix it. It's different. You don't mix a documentary with a reality show. They're different.
Yeah, they're different
They're both
entertainment. Yeah,
valid
yeah.
and they're both needed, but they're different. And so for me, Christina gives me that unmeasurable talent, a
Oh yeah.
one in a million voice,
Oh yeah.
um, very important messages. So we were talking about teenage years. She rescued me a lot of times. When she released Fighter, Beautiful is a song I want to have played on my funeral one day.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I remember.
So the voice within, reflection. I remember that now when Mulan, the live action was released, she released a new version of Reflection like almost 20 years later. And I was having a huge, quite traumatic breakup. And I remember listening to that in my phones at a very high volume when I was running in the hoods in my hometown. I decided to get fit. Well, it was a project that I canceled very fast, but and I remember listening to that and thinking, fuck, this is that woman 20 years later, and she's so much better, so much
Yeah.
thicker and stronger that we can overcome everything. So that's the role of an artist, is to lift you up in the hardest time of your life. And she did. And so that's one of the things. The other is exactly, yeah, the empowerment. She's an empowering artist. So my solo work is my Jean Grey version. It's my sensitiveness and my fragility. But if you ask me directly, what do I want to mean to my fans and the people that listen to me? I want to be the Dark Phoenix. I want to be Christina. I want them to feel uplifted, powerful, inspired, you know? So I don't want to drown in victimhood. That's the thing I respect a lot about her. She talks about very deep subjects of her life, domestic violence and the relationship with her father, but she never talks in the perspective of the traumatized person that got stuck in the trauma. She always talks in the perspective of the person that overcame it. And I respect that a lot because I know the strength it takes to do that, you know, and to hold the scars and get up there and say, bitch, this is me standing up and kicking ass. And I respect her and admire her immensely. And what kind of pisses me off is that she's in this industry where women need to be thin and sexualized. Because for me, she would be like Adele. With that voice, she just needs a dress and to sing.
Yeah.
That's it. Because with that voice, she doesn't need anything else,
No.
you know? And I remember seeing a recent performance of her where I kind of got a little sad because she's beautiful and gorgeous. She got way thinner and kind of all revamped. But I just saw, of course, a 40-something-year-old woman, almost the voice is intact and great, but almost trying to prove she's still sexy
Yeah.
and she's still that hot bomb. And I'm like, girl, remember what you said in Beautiful. You don't need any of this. You just need to sing your ass off like you do. You don't need to prove anyone that you look as young as you were. Because actually, what's that thing about looking young? We're not pedophiles, are we?
No,
So
yes.
you know, who cares?
There's nothing
Who
wrong with
cares?
aging
I like
gracefully.
the self-respect. I like the talent, and that is all there. You know, so she can try to prove anything. She never tried that. Trying it now because she's a woman and she's falling in the trap all women fall. It saddens me. She needs to listen to her own songs, you know, and to can't hold us down on repeat.
Let me ask you a question that I think you're maybe one of the most qualified guys to answer because with all the success you had, especially singing in English, because there are people of Portuguese descent that had huge success, like Nelly Furtado and Shawn Mendes and whatever. But how come? Why do you think there hasn't been like this international band coming out of Portugal yet?
Oh, it's very simple to answer that because of scale. Because of investment, because of money. Both Nelly Furtado and Shawn Mendes have Portuguese roots. They're not Portuguese.
Yeah,
They're not in
yeah,
Portugal. So the money they can count on from a label is not the money of a Portuguese label. So you can imagine, well, in my solo work, I was represented by Sony Music, one of the biggest labels in the industry. But then a record of mine with video clips and promotion and everything, and almost everything paid by me,
yeah,
it costed around 12,000 euros. And suddenly, a new band that is shooting their first video clip comes from Italy, and they close the Vasco da Gama bridge because their budget was 150,000. So that's why a Portuguese band is not internationalized, because we don't have government support, and even because our institutions, the Portuguese institutions, don't have the budget to compete with London prices, with the US prices. If I pay for a promoter, a press promoter here, I would pay like, I don't know, 1,500 per month. If I wanted to hire the same service in the States or in the United Kingdom, it would be
yeah.
like 6 times that.
Hmm.
Unless we are Cristiano Ronaldo
Yeah,
or or we get very lucky on the internet era.
Because sometimes now social
Someone
media
is
blows
finding
up.
us, and
Yeah.
which is kind of a dream and an utopia because it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Cinderella story.
That is why there's not an internationalized Portuguese artist like Bjork from Iceland or Shakira from Colombia or Rosalia from Spain or Anita from Brazil. If you just compare Brazil and Portugal, look at the scale.
Yeah.
A show goes wrong there
Never.
and it has 50,000 people.
Yeah.
A show of an international artist here goes really well and it has 20,000
Yeah.
and it's the maximum. So
Let me
that's
ask
it.
you, on that note, when you guys were at your peak, what was the biggest crowd you performed to?
The biggest crowd for me, it was exactly with Nelly Furtado
Yeah.
doing her warm up in 2005, and it was more than 100,000 people.
Wow.
We felt the difference of the
Where was it?
in Albufeira, New Year's Eve.
But feeling that energy from the crowd, that just like possess you? Like how was that feeling?
I'm gonna sound horrible, but what I really enjoy is singing, and I must confess, I enjoy singing for two friends in my living room as much as I enjoy to sing for a million people crowd, and that's true. I sing every day. That's my biggest privilege. So I'm very sorry to disappoint people, but it's not as much about the audience, but about the act in itself. I feel so relieved and so free and so much closer to myself that my debt is to God, is to the
Beautiful.
God, the gift He gave me. Because I don't care how many people are listening. I'm gonna keep singing every day. Well, being more just would help me have a more comfortable life to keep on doing it and doing it in my terms and the way I like. But I will always keep singing. I write songs every day. I sing every day. And sometimes I come very tired from a concert and I get home and I put a karaoke just to sing because I love it. That's what I do if you pay me or not. That's what I would choose to do anyway
When
in
you
my free time. So that's also a privilege. My work is not work. It's the thing I love the most to do. So that's why, in a time with the band in the earlier phase, I kind of started hating it. And you can't make me hate the thing I love the most. The way it was becoming work and taking the pleasure out of it is kind of the big reason I stepped aside and I left. I wanted to fall in love with it again.
Would you say, out of all those people, when you were in the peak, like you were saying, when you were at your peak and you were performing, you were being invited to open up these concerts, all these big names, Queen, like you mentioned, Simple Minds, The Corrs, Nelly Furtado. Was there any one of them when you were hanging like out backstage that stood out the most to you, that left either a good or bad impression?
Yes, the course, because I was really a fan of the course when I was a kid. And so I remember that I was leaving the stage and Andrea was just running to the stage and she just looked back and said, "Whoa, kid, nice voice. We loved the concert." And I got all chills all over my body. And then after they finished, I went to take a picture with them and I was very humbled and shy because it was the first big band we were warming up. And actually, it was the one that was actually a favorite of mine, that I had the records and everything. And I remember that my manager got pissed off because I just took a record to have it signed by them, and they signed it to me and not the fingertips, and I didn't leave it in the band, museum. So it was like, no, this one is mine, So because it was really a band I followed, and that's just like the Lee Nash collaboration. It was artists I really listened to. Of course, I'm not gonna deny the weight of a name like George Michael, but come on, I'm born in '88. I didn't listen to it that much.
It
I
doesn't
know he's
have
a
that
great
connection
artist,
to
but it
you.
wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Corrs were. I
Yeah.
still listen to the Corrs, so.
What, until this day, what's the number one song that you guys get requested the most? Because you guys have like 4 or 5 like that are really big songs.
It's between "'Cause to Love You" and "Picture of My Own."
Yeah.
It's those two. Though I really believe that "Picture of My Own" is our song for several reasons. Because it was a first, and there's no love like the first. The thing about first records is that you're not expecting anything. You're just doing you. You don't know if it's gonna have success or not, if people are gonna like it or not. And actually, "Picture of My Own" wasn't a huge success right away because people used to say, like, "Oh, but this sounds like two different people singing, and the chorus has different lyrics, and the introduction is too big." And so it wasn't a very commercial, radio-friendly song. But then it was in the advertisement of the beer and in the soap opera, and now people call it the song that marked a generation
For sure.
because it really marked an era. And it's special because it was a first. And for me, it's still my favorite fingertip song,
Yeah.
for sure.
Where would you rate the first one? Melancholic Ballad?
Well, I prefer Picture of My Own way
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than Melancholic Ballad. Actually, Melancholic Ballad is the one that gets me the single syndrome.
Yeah.
It's when people say, "Oh, sing that one," or those two chords start playing. My manager always say, "We need to thank this song for a lot of things we
But
lived
it's
after
true,
because
it
it was
opens
because
the
of
door
this
to
one."
everything.
But it's the one that when it does tan tan tan, I get kind of inside like, again.
Funny.
Yeah.
At the time, I remember, like, it was really your business card to the world, like, you know?
People are idiots. We've sang that song in some celebrities' weddings, and I just wondered all the time, like, did the people listen to
To
the
the
lyrics?
lyrics.
Of course, all of them divorced some years after. But I was
Wait,
like, did they listen to
in
the lyrics? Why are
Portugal,
we singing that in a marriage? Okay,
95% get divorced, so
let's do it.
do you
We'll
have
say that it's over.
now that the band's back together, do you have, like, ownership of the band?
Well, we kind of both have.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like this band as a core team,
Yeah.
and there's no fingertips without me or Rui
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So, and well, we both. I didn't try to have fingertips, but I tried a solo career, and Rui tried to keep on fingertips with another vocalist,
Yeah.
and kind of we both got to the conclusion that what people fell in love really musically was with this combo. So we're kind of married
Yeah.
musically till
Yeah.
the end of our days, I guess.
What's that one song that it means so much to you, you thought it was gonna have a bigger impact, but it never really made it?
Well, to be honest, all my favorite songs in my records are never the singles. So Picture of My Own is an exception, but Picture of My Own wasn't the first single. Actually, it had success because of the people,
Mhm.
and because of those two circumstances. But if you ask me, I love Something Has Broken, for example. It's a song that I really love, and it was also featured in a soap opera. I love More Than Dying, and I'm a very spiritual person, so it's a song that talks to my soul a lot. Um, on my solo work, I loved Death because it's a song I wrote to my grandmother after she died. Um, you know, I love Setembro, for example. Those are the songs that have had the same impact on me I felt when I listened to Foolish Games. Are the songs that when they came out of mix and master, I listened to them and I had that same feeling and I
Yeah.
cried the same way and I felt the same level of emotion. So those are the songs that I wouldn't like to not have written, So they are very special to me. Of course, they're rarely the ones with more commercial success. For example, in
Yeah.
the last EP of Fingertips, there's a song I really love that it's mostly piano and vocals called You Did, that I think it's very special. For
Mhm.
example, and we rarely play it live.
Mhm.
So that's it. Those are kind of my favorite songs.
In this new generation of up and coming artists,
I'm a saddy baddie.
but is there anyone that stands out to you a little bit? Like, oh, I like what he's doing, or she's doing, or
To be honest, I love Sabrina Carpenter because of her smart lyrics
yeah.
and because she's a little Christina Aguilera without the vocals. But on the empowerment and the message and the sassiness and how rebellious she is and how she says that, well, to write a good lyric is to call men as stupid as you can. I love her. I kind of really like her. Um, so yeah, from the new generation, I like her a lot. More.
How about in
I love a
Portugal?
Moroccan singer called Fawzia.
Okay.
Since Christina Aguilera, Fawzia is kind of my favorite female vocalist. I
Mhm.
think she's brilliant.
How about in
And
Portugal?
she released a record independently recently called Film Noir that went to the top worldwide. And that kind of gives me hope. I felt proud because she did it independently and she worked a lot on it. You can see in the beginning of her career, like the doubt in the production choice and everything.
Mhm.
And then she releases a stripped album that it's mostly her in the piano. And it's like Christina. It's those vocals you get kind of, whoa, you don't need anything else. It's just her and the piano, and it's more than enough. She knocks it out of the park.
Now that you're already on this 20-year career, is in hindsight, is there anything you would have done 23 that
Going to 25 in
2000 had to be you started?
2028.
Yeah.
That's when we plan
And
to
you're
do
such a
our
young
first
person still.
Mewarena.
And you're still so young. You still have another 30 or 40 years of success.
30 fucking
That's
7.
right, man.
Almost going to 38. I'm not. I know. When we were kids, we would think about a 40-year-old person and we would imagine
Oh,
a different
yeah, yeah.
thing. But that's just fashion changing. We're getting old.
Yeah, that's
Let's
right.
convince ourselves of that.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's no
correct.
shame around it.
But would you have done anything different throughout your career in hindsight?
Well, we would always say we would do it differently if we know what
Yeah, if you know what you know
if we
now.
knew what we
Yeah.
know today.
Yeah.
But there would be no way that I know what I know if I didn't go through it. So, to be honest, no.
All right.
I think I was very privileged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In Portugal, you mentioned internationally. When you were coming up as a kid, was there anyone that inspired you, like in Portugal, musically wise?
When I was a kid, I used to love Lucio. I loved her first record, Magnolia. I thought it was very special.
Yeah.
I used to love an unplugged record of Entraspas. That was brilliant. It was very, very good.
Yeah. I remember that.
Quero ver os peixes a bailar e as
Yeah.
ideias a gritar.
Yeah.
Of course, this is not one of my favorite songs. It's a
No, but
single.
it was a
But they
popular
have
song.
gorgeous songs. That unplugged record, musically, it's perfect. It's very good, and Vivienne is a very good singer live.
You said you get the same pleasure performing to like a room full of people or a stadium. But what part of the do you like the best? Do you like the creative studio part of the project or the performances?
It's different. I love creating. I love recording in studio and creating songs, and I love composing and writing songs in the piano. One of my biggest frustrations is to feel that when I die, there's gonna be a lot more work that wasn't published than the one that was actually published.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, because it's totally anti-industry, sometimes I wonder: is there a way I can release my songs at the speed I make them without banalizing myself in a way, or without getting my manager mad, because that's not how it works. Because yeah, sometimes I wish I could just, write a song, record a shitty video on my phone, and post it on Instagram, and that's it. So they don't go in a drawer, because actually I don't know how to read music. I learned to play and to write by myself. So, if I don't play a song for some months, then I write 5 new ones and I forget about that one if I don't have a recording or something, touchable. So that's it.
So I noticed you guys are on this tour now. This year you guys are busy. You have a bunch of shows throughout the country.
Yeah.
Is there
We're
any
gonna
chance?
do
Is there any
the
chance?
Coliseum in Açores that it's almost sold out,
All right.
and we're gonna announce some queimas das fitas, and
Nice.
I say it's
Yeah.
international. But yeah, that's it. And we're gonna have the Super Boca Arena in the end of the year. That it's a very big stage, and we're very enthusiastic about it, because we're gonna present the new album for the first time live. We're gonna present new versions of the songs, because we got to a point that we said to ourselves, where yes, we have this long career, but in a way we're still young. We still feel like we can do music for the future. And there's a lot of kids finding out our music now and loving it. So kind of Picture of My Own and Cause to Love You became gold records again after 20 years in the digital sellings.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise for us, because all over again with the same songs, these results. And so when we study the ages of our fans and stuff, it's surprising, because there's a lot of young people that are finding about us right now and enjoying the band. So that kind of confirms the thing we all always believed, is that the sound we make is
Unique.
is it's not only unique, it I believe that Cause to Love You or Melancholic Ballad could be released today.
Oh
It
yeah.
would be a hit
It's
today.
an endless song.
It's not
Endless. Yeah,
attached
yeah.
to an era
It's
or
timeless.
to a sound. It's
It's timeless.
everlasting, or it's adequate to any era, because it's also very classical in a way. Melancholic Ballad has a very classical orchestration.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could have been a single in the 80s or the
Yeah,
90s,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that it's just a classical ballad with a great melody. So I kind of love that about it.
You guys are in perfect timing for this revival, around 2 of this massive success.
Yeah, but we looked at each other and we said we can't keep on serving heated rice. We're still a band of the future. We're still doing contemporary songs. We still have a very mm, groundbreaking production that could be anywhere in the world. So we want to keep on presenting new stuff. Of course, I already said this once. I know I can be the next big thing twice, and I have the privilege of having been it once. But come on, I kind of demand myself. I'm going to have another number one. I'm still 38.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to have it, and I'm going to work for it.
You guys,
Especially because nowadays competition, I must say, kids, it's not that good.
I love it. I love the attitude. Hey, how about when can we? Is there any chance? What would be needed to happen so we can see you guys here in North America again?
Someone to hire us
That's
and
right.
pay for the expenses.
So, have you heard about the IPMA awards?
Yes, of course. And we've been playing, for example, I've been played both solo and with a band in Canada for 3 times
Yeah,
in the Portuguese Music Week. And
yeah,
we've been in Romania in the festival Charitable Dawar. But that's the thing. Again, it's the scale and the budget.
yeah,
One thing is a festival or an
yeah.
entity hiring us,
Mhm.
and maybe even our price for our show and our quality for a North American buyer. Maybe it sounds not even that expensive, but for example, for us to go on our money,
Yeah,
to pay
yeah,
the trips and the hotels and everything,
for sure.
just to go, it's not rentable at all. It's like for the vanity. And yeah, that's the thing about, for example, my solo project Darko was selected to go on the Canadian Music Week. It was one of the few 10 selected in Portugal to go and present their musics. From those 10, only 3 of us went because we found out that, yeah, we were selected, but they didn't pay shit.
Yeah,
Neither trips, neither hotel.
yeah,
So we go to play in Canada. We're going to show our music. And then you get there, and it's an event that has several gigs at the same time in
yeah.
different venues. And when you notice, you're spending a whole lot of money to spend there a week, and then you play for 15 people. So, no, not gonna do it. We play here for,
Yeah, it has to make sense.
8,000, 9,000. So,
Hey, I'm
no.
trying to get the conversation going to see if we can, with the energies work in the same direction, we can make it happen.
Make it happen. We just promise an amazing show
I know it for
and
sure.
a singer that sings live and lyrics that say things that matter.
I know it
That's
for
what
sure.
we promise.
Because that's one thing that I want to help show, because it's like I was telling you earlier, a lot of this diaspora, when they think of Portugal, they only think about the traditional music, right? It's what they're introduced to. So the fest,
And most of the times there's a problem. When we
the
go to
trance.
play in those places, uh, of course, that our stimulation comes from reaching different crowds.
Yeah,
And we sing in English.
yeah,
Of course, my dream would be to be the first band being on uh, the record, shelf,
hmm,
that it's not world music.
yeah,
That it's not Fado. I would like to be next to Bjork
yeah,
and Shakira and, all
yeah,
those artists. Uh, so that is my main stimulation in going to play outside my country. But then most of the times we end up to go playing for our Portuguese communities, which is very nice
yeah,
and
yeah.
lovely.
But
But
the
also
but
those Portuguese
but the
communities want to feel closer to their countries.
yeah,
And so they want to listen to music sang in Portuguese, to more typical
yeah,
music. They prefer to listen to Kim Barreiros,
yeah.
which is totally fair.
It's
They want to
fair.
remember
Right.
home and feel closer to home.
But that's why though, because it was also the music that was popping more in their generation. Like there's this whole past 20, 30 years of music where Portugal, like pop, rock, and rap, we do it amazing, like back home.
Of course we do.
We're amazing at
Have
pop,
amazing bands
rock,
singing in
rap.
English. I remember the gift that are very good. But for example, they try to internationalize themselves. And when you notice, they're just spending a lot of money to play in small
I'm
bars for
sorry,
20, 30 people.
I didn't
And
catch
here
it.
you have the news like, oh, international tour. But the
Yeah,
question is, how much do we have to pay
yeah.
for the small minded people here think, oh, they're big, they're international? We're not playing for huge crowds of foreigners. We're playing in small venues, spending a whole lot of money for a thing that it's not going to make us that big in practical terms and that
Yeah.
it's not going to be a plus in our careers. So, in that point, I think we need to be strategical and not just rely on, the magic of marketing because it's nice, but it's empty if it doesn't translate in something stable and safe.
Which countries has music taken you to?
Well, I've been in Luxembourg, I've been in Switzerland, I've been in Canada, I've been in Romania. More. I guess that's it. Yeah. Canada, Romania, Switzerland, Luxembourg also. I've been in both islands, but then in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Açores several times. We're going there again this May, but I guess that's it. And yes, I was in America 3 times, but I never left New York's airport.
Oh
So I've
yeah?
never actually stepped on the
Oh
States,
yeah?
except for Canada. And I don't know nowadays if I'm very curious, I must say.
Have you always even on the times of when you were off music, have you always stayed in Portugal, or have you ever, like, left the country for a few months to live somewhere else for a little bit?
Sometimes I wonder if I'm not going to regret it when I die that I didn't try to move abroad because for my job and my dreams, yes, maybe I would have a lot more opportunities. And well, this is not a country turned to art
Yeah, yeah.
specifically. But on the other hand, well, that kind of ignites my imposter syndrome, and it makes me wonder. Like the competition there is way bigger. I'm very trustful of my skills, and I think I could sing in the Grammys tomorrow that I wouldn't shame myself in any
No,
way.
for sure, man.
But on the other hand, time passes, and other things start to matter. My mom is 72. I have my pets. I'm not a very outgoing and social person, so I know how much it exhausts me to expose myself to those dynamics. So, yeah, if I had a chance, I would take it and work for it. But nowadays, I would also really prevent my needs, my personal needs. And I know that my happiness, and I know it because I lived it here on a different scale. And I'm not a person that it's at all about the money. For me, money is shit. I grew up listening to arguments about money. So money for me is a utilitarian thing. That's not what I work for. I work more for recognition than money. Um, but that's it. I had that success here. And that didn't quite make me happier, or it wasn't the best time in my life with what it gave me back. Also because I was too young living it. Maybe today I would take advantage of it in a different way. But nowadays, I think a lot more about other things, about feeling good about myself. I love teaching. I give vocal lessons and piano lessons, songwriting lessons. I have beautiful private students that are kids with the dreams I once had. And so for me to be able to teach them not to do the mistakes I did and to protect themselves of what can come with success and exposure for me is also beautiful, and I really believe that the secret for a new world is education. So I like a lot to be a part of it, and so I don't mind at all to step back and again to dedicate my time nowadays in helping others find their power. I found mine, and I'm very aware of it. So I don't need to show it and expose it and exhibit it. Um, you know, I I I go. There was a time in my life that some people told me like, "Come on, did you give up your talent?" No, I gave up my audience. I never give up my talent. I know what it's worth. So I'm so sure of it that I don't feel the need to prove it all the time anymore. I love singing anyway. I know I already written part of the music history and I'm very proud of it. I want to keep on writing it, but with different expectations at a different rhythm and with a lot more safety and care and respect for myself.
Gotta tell you, I can't explain how appreciative I am of your openness and honesty and your your thoughtful answers. It's good
Well,
stuff, man.
honesty comes with a package. Not everyone likes it, but that's what we have for
That's
the
the best
promotion
way, man.
today.
No, that's the best stuff, man. I appreciate it so much, man. This was more than I could imagine. This was you made my life so easy because you answered like 10 questions in
I
one.
talk like shit. You need to tell me to shut
You
up.
made it so easy. I just let you talk. It was beautiful, man. You gave me all the answers I was wanting to ask. So you know what? I had a blast.
So now go get the most controversial sentences and pop it out in the world.
Nah, you know what it is. This is more of
So
a
tomorrow my manager is calling me. God, you said this shit,
no,
this shit.
like
I'm
this is
always
more.
erasing fires because of you.
This is more. The
Remember,
idea
I'm
of
the
this
Dark
is more
Phoenix,
for
honey. I burn
uplifting. So
shit.
to try to put everything on a positive note because it's like I'm saying. I want like there's like 2 million registered people, Portuguese people in like the US and Canada, but there's a whole bunch more that aren't even registered. I interviewed a UFC fighter. He represents Portugal. Then he said he couldn't use the flag because he didn't do his paperwork. So he doesn't even count to the statistic. There's hundreds of thousands of Portuguese that
Interesting.
aren't even counting for that. And there's so much of them here. And I want to bridge this thing so they can know like we're not just música das festas or fado. We're pop, we're rock, we're rap.
We're humans.
Yeah, man.
We're just humans. You need to show it to everyone who wants to listen to it, because I'm not talking to Portuguese, to straight, to gay, to black, to white, to fat, to thin. I'm talking to people,
Everybody.
and we should
That's
look at
yeah.
people like people. And if someone has something that interests me about what they're saying, either if they're from the left part or the right wing,
Whatever.
I listen to it. I'm all about people and ideas,
That's right.
not about labels and boxes. So I don't give a shit about
Thank
that.
you so much for this, man. Thank you so much. I agree with you on that last note, man. I think a lot of
Thank you
this,
so much for your time.
a lot of this left wing, right wing shit is all the same people that are
Oh, it's the
controlling
same
everything.
bird.
The same
Come
people are
on.
controlling everything, and they're making us. As soon as we don't like something, instead of blaming them, we blame the people who voted for the other party. It's all BS.
When are we roasting that chicken? That's my question. I'm just waiting for you to do the barbecue.
Hey, maybe we can make that happen one day. Eh?
It's gonna be closer than you think, trust me. Don't forget, I'm the dog phoenix, so I'm a psychic and I burn shit.
My friends. This was
Take
amazing.
care.
It was a blast. We're gonna leave it
Thank
here.
you.
I had so much fun, and I really appreciate, like I said, like your deep and insightful answers. It was a blast, man. I hope whoever watches this,
When you come to Portugal, feel free to come
I
to one
hope
of our
whoever
concerts. I
watches
would like
this
to meet you
gets
in
to
person.
connect with you. Where are you more active on social media, so people on this side of the Atlantic can follow your journey?
I'm a loser on technology, so I don't have Twitter. I barely use Facebook. I don't have TikTok. I'm on Instagram and on Substack.
All right,
Those are the two apps I use. All the rest, well,
and
forgive me.
your music is on all the streaming platforms, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Yes. Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, all those things that I don't use that much.
No, for sure, but it's just so people, anyone new that isn't so much aware of the pop music in Portugal, just try and
If
channel
they
them.
go to my Instagram or the band's Instagram, well, but personally, mine, it's where I put all the things I do and I write and my songs and my classes. And so if you like what I do, it's the place to go.
Thank you so much, man. This was a blast.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Take care. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and hit that like button below. Obrigado e até a próxima.